Welcome to Maniac Movies. I do regular updates Wednesdays and Fridays, and if I see something I feel like talking about between then, I'll start the video, like I'm doing here with Bring Me a Dream.
All these innocent people have died.
So Martin Kove is starring with his son Jesse Kove in a new horror flick with Tyler Mane as the villain, the Sandman. Not the first horror movie to use the Sandman as a villain, but the Sandman hasn't really had that classic presentation in horror yet. We don't really, and no, I'm not. Neil Gaiman's movie hasn't been made yet, so that doesn't count. So is this the new horror icon? Have they created this great character for these actors? No, no, this movie's fucking terrible. So, I didn't think this movie was going to be great, but I thought, you've got Martin Kove, and Martin Kove is kind of in the middle of a career resurgence now. He's been in some classic movies, the Karate Kid movies. He was in the second Rambo, The Last House on the Left. I believe he was in Death Race 2000 with Sylvester Stallone. So he's been in some legit classics, and then his career died down, but now he's on Cobra Kai, which is so extremely popular. And someone should tell him that now that you've got the possibility for this late career comeback, you should not do zero budget bullshit like this anymore. I've got a feeling that this movie basically only happened because his son Jesse Kove got offered a lead role in a movie, and he was like, "Well, I can get my dad to be here for a minute." And so that's about how much Martin Kove is in this movie. He has, I think, two scenes, 4 or 5 minutes tops of screen time. Now, his son Jesse Kove is actually a lead character. Now, Jesse Kove isn't bad in this movie, and it seems like with decent material, he could probably be a halfway decent actor. But it kind of reminds me of Dean, of a young version of Dean, Dean Winchester from Supernatural, the Jensen Ackles character. But essentially, what happens is this movie starts in true zero budget bullshit fashion with a half naked pretty girl running through the woods looking scared. So this girl, she is named Avery, and she ends up at a small house in the woods that they call a sorority house. This is not a sorority house, but fine, whatever. And she ends up there, and she takes everyone there hostage, and the cops are after her, and she's all scared. She's babbling, and she's screaming about, "Oh, the Sandman is gonna get me! He killed all my friends, but the police think I did it." And I'm paraphrasing here, partly because I'm not gonna repeat her whole thing, but also because I couldn't understand what she was saying. The audio in this movie is terrible. I'm not kidding. There were big chunks of her whole monologue, and she does one of the biggest exposition dumps I have ever seen in my life. She talks for like 12 minutes about this crap. And the girl, like the poor girl, is trying her best. She's trying to act, but I couldn't understand half of what she was saying. She's like, and then he came and he killed me. You can't fall asleep. I didn't know what the friggin' rules of the Sandman were. I didn't know how the character worked because I couldn't understand half of what she said. And I guess I could have, jacked the volume all the way to 10 so I could hear it, but my neighbors had already gotten mad at me earlier for playing music too loud, so I didn't want to do that. So, yeah, I missed a lot of what she said, honestly. That's, the dialogue is, I'm sorry, the audio is the worst. This sounds like it was recorded with in-camera audio. It doesn't even sound like they had a boom operator on set. And I can only imagine what Martin Kove and Tyler Mane, who have been in real legit movies, were thinking when they were on set for this thing. Because I know Tyler Mane's not a megastar or anything. His career peaked 10 years ago. He's always going to be best known for playing Michael Myers in Rob Zombie's Halloween movies, and then he's popped up in some other stuff. But he is the Sandman, and his role consists of him walking around, looking scary, and occasionally saying "tick tock, tick tock." That's it. That's all. That's all Tyler Mane has to do in this whole movie. So, and again, Martin Kove is in 5 minutes of it. But so the cop, Jesse Kove, and his partner show up, and Avery immediately shoots one of them. She shoots the partner, not Jesse Kove. And Jesse Kove is so upset about his partner that he pretty much forgets all about the guy and never really references it again in the rest of the movie. And the guy just lays out front and bleeds. He's not even dead. So she takes everyone hostage and does this whole long thing, and no one believes her. So she's like, "I guess I'll just have to summon him." And you know how I know that? Because it says so in the IMDb summary of the movie. Because again, I couldn't understand what she was saying. I didn't know why the Sandman suddenly showed up and killed Avery, which surprised me because I thought he was the main character. But yeah, so out of the movie, spoilers. No one cares. This movie's garbage. So, and like, I really only watched this because I figured, all right, it has a couple actors I've heard of it, and most of the actresses look pretty, so it'll kill some time. I had it on while I was cooking, but this is still really bad. It's occasionally funny bad. So this is a movie that tries to make runtime by just having characters argue about crap. Because after Avery dies, they essentially know the Sandman is real, even though some of them still pretend like he's not. He killed her right in front of you. He Jason Voorhees punched through her chest. It's like a person can't do that, and then he disappeared. What do you? Whatever. And then one of the girls who who I've come to think of as the oldest sorority girl in history. I kept thinking like this woman is it. She's older than me. Like I knew she was older than me, and I kept thinking like this woman is at least like in her mid 30s, and actually she's into her 40s. I looked up her IMDb. Oh, I'm having to keep consulting this because I didn't learn anyone's names, but yeah, the I have it written down as Gwen Old. So yeah, maybe she's married to the director or something. I have no idea what these idiots were thinking when they cast this 40-year-old woman as a sorority girl. But she's like, I gotta go pee. Okay, a woman just died. Hold it. No, she's like, I'm gonna go pee. I'm just gonna pop a squat and be right back. And she says that. She says pop a squat. What woman use whatever. And then she goes off by herself after they've seen someone murdered. And they did this thing where they all have these little candles, and it seemed like if the candle goes out, you die. But then also, maybe if you're just again, I missed all the rules, so I didn't understand what the frig was happening. But she goes off by herself, and immediately, they say that the Sandman is going to show you your worst nightmares, and you have to power through it or you die. So, her worst nightmare is apparently having her looks fade. All right, you're already well into your 40s. You should be mature enough to accept the fact that one day your looks are going to fade. But fine, I'm pretty sure her character was supposed to be 21. So her face like starts poltergeist melting off, and what else? Then two more go looking for her, like because Jesse Kove, the cop, is trying to be the hero. And again, like he's actually fine in this movie. He was apparently also in V.F.W with Martin Kove. He played, I think, Crazy Raver or something. So he had a huge part in that movie. I have no idea who he played in that movie, but he's fine in this. And he says, well, we have to go look for her, and he's gonna do it. But then like this other girl, she says, no, I'll go look for her. And this girl I came to think of as the one dating the black guy. These characters are not well developed. What was her name? Erin. So Erin, and of course they have to do the whole no, I should do it. And then she's like, why? I can't do it because I'm a girl. And then this other girl, the skinny blonde, Brittany. So Erin and Brittany, like, no, we'll just go together. We'll go look for her. They are very careful not to let you see all of this house at once, but this is clearly a small house. So she's like, she just went to the bathroom. Yeah, it's right down the hall. It's 10 feet away. You'll never be out of sight of the main group, but fine, act like this is a big deal. And they argue about this for like 10 minutes to the point where Jesse Cove's character actually says, no more arguing. It's stupid. It's like, agreed. Yeah, this is stupid. In your bad movie, you shouldn't point out the fact that the dialogue is stupid. This is, I mean, they go on and on about this, and the little torpy blonde guy, Carter, like he does this whole thing where he's like, I'm gonna go off by myself. I'm safer. Like, so he stalks off, but apparently he didn't really, because they're all actually already asleep. So none of this is really happening. They're all in the same room together the whole time. Only they're not sometimes, but then they are again. There's no logic to any of this crap. But anyway, so Aaron and Brittany go off by themselves and get separated in this two-bedroom, completely average-sized house. And Brittany's worst fear apparently is getting 50 Shades of Grey to death. Like, she gets stripped naked and gets whipped on her ass to death. And I don't know that you can actually kill somebody just by whipping their ass, because that's the only place it makes contact on. But that killed her, I guess, because she's not in the movie anymore. And Erin, her worst fear is, I guess, being called a racist by her black boyfriend, but she actually stands up to it, and this movie comes perilously close to good writing for a minute where she kind of calls him out and says, no, I'm not uncomfortable with our relationship. Maybe you are, but it doesn't matter to me. So don't put your hangups on me. This is not significant It's my understanding about who we are and how we are together. And so she kind of goes off, and I actually kind of like this actress, the one that played Erin. She seemed more talented than most. So I start to kind of align with her and think, oh, there's our final girl. No, no. So she immediately. Sometimes it seems like the Sandman is controlling them and making them do things because Erin just, after telling RJ, her boyfriend, that she's all in on their relationship and he's the only thing holding him back, she just goes off and bangs the arrogant blonde prick guy, Carter. And then they're doing it in front of RJ, and they're like screaming racial slurs at him because they're both white and he's black as they're having sex. And I can only imagine that this had to be so awkward to film for everyone. But yeah, so they go off, and this is actually them because RJ freaks out and stabs her, and it kills her. So I guess the Sandman was controlling her to make her do that. But then dead characters are walking around later in the movie, so we can also just make people hallucinate that characters are. Like, this doesn't make sense. Anyway, there's this one girl who says, "I'm just not going to fall asleep. The Sandman can't get me if I can't fall asleep." So she just starts jogging in place. And while I don't know how long it would take to cause your feet to bleed by jogging in place barefoot on a hardwood floor, I know it would take longer than it takes for her feet to bleed in this movie because she's doing it for like an hour and it starts happening. And she's not stomping on the ground or anything. She's just. So this girl is Bo. And Bo looks so much like another character named Taylor that I didn't realize they weren't the same person. So I, these girls look almost identical. Like they're sisters. They're both, heavy tan, curly brown hair. You know, about the same age. Look like they're both about 20. Both very curvy figures. But anyway, apparently Bo's worst fear, because keep in mind the Sandman is showing you your worst fear, is being gang raped. I think that's most women's worst fear, honestly. But so that happens, and again, and in a movie this dumb, you probably shouldn't go this dark. But it doesn't actually show it. It just shows what leads up to it. And I guess she got gang raped to death because she's out of the movie. And then the one who saw her face melting off, the 40-year-old sorority girl, the cop back, Jesse Kove's character, actually saves her. But then he has to confront his worst fear, which is disappointing his dad, played by Martin Kove. So Martin Kove plays his son's dad in the movie. So I would bet that Martin Kove wrote his own dialogue because this is actually good dialogue. It's a good scene between them, and it's easily the highlight of the movie. Where he does this whole thing where he's talking to his son about going into the military, and his son says, that's not for me, and he tells him, he starts talking about the family honor, and then Martin Kove is apparently the sheriff of this town, and this is all in a flashback. So the way Martin Kove died is that he had this big argument with his son, got out of his car, then was shot to death in his own front yard by a guy that he had arrested years earlier. And so, obviously his son's worst fear is having let down his father. And he kind of snaps out of it and, goes on about his merry way. And he saves the 40-year-old sorority girl. But it starts to seem like they're all just dreaming. Again, it's hard to tell if they're actually ever standing up or if all of this is just happening in their heads, like maybe a shared dream, like in Nightmare on Elm Street 3. And the Sandman is totally a ripoff of Freddy Krueger, by the way, but not a good one. Again, almost never talks. But yeah. So then we get to see the Taylor girl's worst dream, which is being buried alive, and you have her friends doing this while the arrogant blonde guy's worst nightmare is being outed because apparently he's either bisexual or gay. He's not really specific about it. But that in his nightmare sequence had the funniest line in the whole movie where someone says, "You went from vagina boy to fabulous." I have never heard anyone called a vagina boy in my life, but I will say that I am going to call someone a vagina boy now. So Carter's worst fear is getting outed as being interested in men, and Taylor's worst fear is being buried alive, which is completely valid because I think being buried alive would be a horrible way to die. So, but Taylor manages to pull herself out of her nightmare, but the cop Jesse Kove's character tries to stand up to the Sandman, and he actually quotes Die Hard. He goes, "Yippee ki yay, motherfucker!" And he's like, "I always wanted to say that." Okay, 1995, good joke. Good God, man, how long ago was this script written? And it doesn't matter. The Sandman kills him, so out of the movie. And this movie spontaneously decides that Taylor's the final girl. She's barely been in the movie up to this point. So She actually comes up with, the Sandman has to be shown his reflection, also like Freddy Krueger, and she shows him his reflection, and he goes, but then these other cops finally showed up, and I thought that they were all dead, but apparently not. I couldn't even, I couldn't really care at that point. And he like pulls her out, and he keeps going like, "I saved you," and she's like, "No, you didn't. I was good. I had him." And like he goes, "No, I saved you." Guess what? If someone tells you you didn't just save their life, you didn't just save their life. They know better than you. And then the cop gets killed, and she runs off. And I'm sure the movie thought it was being clever because it ends the same way it started, with this lone survivor girl running through the woods from the Sandman. So that's this movie, Bring Me a Dream, and this is a really bad movie. Bad movie fans might get some enjoyment out of it. There's some kind of over the top gore in places, but not a lot. There's some nudity in places, but not a lot. There's some Martin Kove in places, but not a lot. So anyway, yeah, this movie sucked. That's all I got.